What are some horrifying things to consider when thinking about aliens? One theory, from Stephen Hawking, is that if they are sufficiently advanced, that aliens may treat us like ants. When we build dams, we don't worry about whether or not a dam will cause an anthill to be flooded out. Similarly, a species that is advanced as far beyond us as we are beyond ants might seek to alter our planet or even our solar system to their advantage without giving consideration to what may happen to us. The speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. I think that any aliens that are capable of traveling light years to reach us have no interest in our resources. We are so sorry, we can't protect you anymore. The possibility of them already knowing about us but us not knowing about them. We have no idea if they know. They could be committing space espionage right now, and we wouldn't know about it. Extremely unlikely, I know. But if aliens ever come to Earth, it likely means they are a spacefaring and interstellar capable species with tech at least centuries, if not millennia, ahead of ours. In other words, if aliens are even remotely capable of traveling to our planet, we are pretty much outgunned hilariously. It's possible that they are fat single-cell organisms just loafing around. Our human concepts of morality and empathy are heavily influenced by our mammalian biology. Imagine that aliens land, and instead of having nice little family units, their species lays clutches of thousands of eggs at a time. They don't form strong bonds. Life is essentially expendable for them. They see us weeping over a dead child and they have literally no frame of reference for understanding why this would be upsetting. I'm not saying all aliens will be like this, but some definitely could be. For all we know, aliens might not be the little green men that fly around in flying saucers and destroy us with laser beams. They could be an interstellar pathogen that show up one day and silently and effortless kills us all without warning. Our immune systems would have no idea what hit them. What if there really is valuable information to be gained from anal probes? They might be sexy, and they might be horny. That they don't actually exist. If there were no advanced civilization that can colonize other planets, that would mean that most of them go extinct before they reach that level of technological advancement, which means that we are probably doomed to extinction too. That they could be massive, taller than buildings, and eat us like bacon strips. Aliens could do to us what we did to wolves, selectively breeding a once noble species in grotesque ways, transforming us into the equivalent of bulldogs, poodles, dachshunds, etc. My main thing is that they'll bring a virus or something that'll just wipe us out cause we've never seen anything like it, or we'll be immune cause it's too alien. Who knows? But until there is actual proof that there are advanced aliens out there, I'll stick to the idea that they are bacterial cells on Titan or something. The scariest thing to me is thinking that aliens want nothing to do with us. I don't get why everyone thinks that aliens would attack us immediately. It's one thing if we come into their territory, but if they stumble upon us, we are most likely safe. Them finding us would mean they are incredibly advanced. Anything they could get by attacking Earth they could get far easier by harvesting it from a different planet in our solar system. Unless they feed specifically on brainwaves, it isn't worth the hassle to attack a planet teeming with life. They may have some weapons, however primitive, that might be used against you. It's far more frightening to believe that aliens will one day discover us and won't be interested. They won't want us on their intergalactic councils. They won't want to give us medicine. They won't want to form any bond. If they decide to just leave humanity alone, that means either they have decided we are not worth saving, or that we are too close to destruction to be worth the resources. That they cold been here the entire time, playing Farmville with us. The assumption that they come in groups in some flying saucer. For all we know, they might just appear in hordes of thousands if not millions all across the planet. Also, we like to think that aliens will share the same way of thinking as humans, that is, reasoning, emotions, etc. But the only reason we think that is because that's the only thing we are familiar with. Aliens might have completely different emotions or thought processes than us, but we won't know because we never encountered them before. It's like the fourth dimension. At this point it's pretty well established what it is, but most of us, if not all, have no clue how to visualize or properly explain it. Maybe they treat us like we treat pigs, cows and chickens. What if their cheeks aren't clappable? They might bully you. That it's already happened, that aliens came to Earth, destroyed what was already living there, and took over, that we, humans, had been the aliens. Would be scary to imagine a starved, desperate race of beings that are trying to keep their world alive by any means necessary. The fact that any life form that advanced that showed up to Earth without wanting a peaceful contact would likely just show up, vacuum up all the resources and leave us to die without any communication or anything. Think about it, when humans go into nature to get resources, they don't kill all the animals, they just take what they want and leave. For some reason, that is more chilling to me than aliens just glassing the planet with lasers. I don't think a peaceful alien would contact us. We are violent and very territorial. Things that would be in opposition to any kind of peaceful alien or interplanetary federation. The dark forest theory kinda freaks me out. The universe is a dark forest. Every civilization is an armed hunter stalking through the trees like a ghost, gently pushing aside branches that block the path, and trying to tread without sound. Even breathing is done with care. The hunter has to be careful, because everywhere in the forest are stealthy hunters like him. If he finds another life, another hunter, angel, or a demon, a delicate infant, a tottering old man, a fairy or demigod, there's only one thing he can do: open fire and eliminate them. That they found us, observed from a distance for the past 10 years or so, and have declared the planet a disaster area that nobody should ever visit. We won't know about their existence until they attack us. Since life on this planet is one big cycle of eating other living things, plants, and animals, to survive, they might be so horrified that they press the big nope button and end it all. That one day they will just wipe out our planet without us ever knowing why, and that it will be so fast we don't even realize it. They can also come in different forms than we expect. You could have an alien made of sound waves or a microscopic alien. We are only an intelligent species because we defined ourselves that way. Think of it. There is only a 1% difference in DNA between chimps and us. Meanwhile, the difference in intelligence is huge. We are exploring the cosmos with our advanced telescopes. Meanwhile, the smartest chimp is stacking up rocks. Now think of an alien species that has a 1% DNA difference with us lining the other way. Their simplest thoughts would be too complicated for us. The smartest person on Earth would be like a chimp stacking up rocks for them. Now think of a species with another 1% difference. We wouldn't even be like ants walking on the floor to them. We would be less than that. And you could go on like that. 10%, 20%, 30%, etc. What would we be? So insignificant that no one in the cosmos would consider making contact with us? Is the truth of the cosmos and reality actually really simple, but we are just too stupid? Like expecting ants walking on a football field to understand what's going on the field? Do we not know what we don't know? You know those tribes that live on islands in the Pacific that haven't had technological progress in thousands of years? That's us. You know those international logging companies that would love a chance to just campo over the island and take what's there? Somewhere there's an alien Greenpeace that's just barely getting by on a shoestring budget. What if it ends up the other way around? What if we end up being able to travel between the stars, and we find some aliens that aren't as technologically advanced as we are? I could easily see us being imperialist invaders, committing the atrocities we've committed against each other on an entire species, so we could have a second planet with an oxygen atmosphere and easily attainable natural resources. That would be truly horrifying. That they are from the future. Time flows differently in space, and if aliens are real, then they could be from the future. What if they were like, really, really big? The fact that they could pretty much see us as inferior life forms. Thus, they could make us slaves, their food or test subjects. It wouldn't be something personal. They just would look down on us, like we would do with some ants. Not even worth it changing the direction of a step to avoid killing. Number 1. There is absolutely nothing on planet Earth that the aliens can't find in more abundance elsewhere. precious metals, gases for fuel, assuming they don't have 0-point energy or some crap that lets them get power from vacuum. And even water are all available in space, and you can get these resources with zero resistance. So I don't think they would come here for any resources. Unless they want our biosphere, which, for all we know, could be abundant in the galaxy. Number 2. If aliens do show up one day, but turn out to be hostile, there is absolutely nothing we can do to stop them. If they have been coming here, if you believe in that sort of thing, they have been doing so for a very long time. They know everything about us, including our weaknesses, and how to exploit them. Meanwhile, they are a species capable of FTL travel. Wiping us out would be as simple for them as flipping on a light switch. No jet-to-ship dogfights. No magical weak point to hit. No third act secret weapon to save us. Just one press of that button and everything turns white and then black. So if they do come to Earth, they would need a damn good reason to. If our luck is truly awful, and they actually want something from us, we'd better pray that it's something that we don't have to fight over, because we wouldn't stand a chance. The other day, I looked at pictures of the universe and thought, what if Earth is the size of a marble ball to an alien? I think it's called an theory that we are so small, we can't possibly comprehend the space we live in and see or acknowledge other beings. That we are no more interesting or important to them than the anthill in your yard. They won't be like us. They'll be thousands of years beyond having a DNA-based substrate. The bodies they use will be consciously designed and used as needed. Most existence will be virtual. That they might not exist. If there are aliens, they could undoubtedly pose a threat to humanity. But I think most people want alien life to exist elsewhere. That way we aren't alone in the universe. I think that the most horrifying thing to think about is that despite how incredibly huge the universe is, we might be the only ones in it. Edit. Reread my comment. Alien life wouldn't undoubtedly pose a threat to humanity. It may pose a threat, and that's assuming that it's intelligent life. The most horrifying thing about discovering aliens would be that the human race would have no idea how to process the aliens. We would be absolutely terrified of them, because they would probably be beyond human comprehension. Alien discovery would be one of the scariest things to ever happen to mankind. They might have all the unobtainium. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both scenarios are scary. Just look at what happened to Native Americans when white people showed up. The same will happen to all of us. Why they're here. I'm not afraid of aliens. Even if they are out there, which I certainly won't rule out, then they are too far away to ever interact with us. That they aren't from another planet, merely another time. A post-sun time, where humans have adapted to an environment with no light, large eyes, gray skin, humanoid features. They aren't visiting us to learn anything new. They are analyzing their ancestors' past mistakes. That if they are advanced enough to find and reach us without detection, if they think like humans, they'll have about as much empathy for us as we do cattle, given our vastly inferior intellects. We struggle enough with terrestrial diseases and infections. If extraterrestrial beings came to this daft little planet we live on without ill will, the diseases they would bring, similar to what could happen with non-contact tribes like the Sentinelese. They've had no exposure to some of the modern day diseases, and just one person could kill them all without meaning to all knowing. Simply because they carry an infection, virus or disease. Our immunity has evolved and adapted to common diseases, and, as the human race, we've worked to help people become immune to not so common diseases, as proven by SARS-CoV-2. All it takes is something novel, new, previously unknown, to wreak havoc on the human race. We may not be able to mobilize our collective medical knowledge with speed, if we can even identify and work towards a cure with current terrestrial technology, before it infects and possibly kills the human race, all just because some crazy little, or large, Ed just wanted to say hi. We don't know what life looks like. Our theory of life strictly applies to Earth-based organisms, and the moment we actually discover any form of extraterrestrial life, that theory is going to fly out the window. For all we know, we could be surrounded by alien life and not even know it. Maybe the stars are actually a plasma-based species that conquered the universe long ago, or there are sentient rocks that colonized all of the terrestrial planets. Maybe every hydrogen atom is actually capable of advanced communication, art, and curiosity, but we can't recognize it because we don't know what to look for. I'm not saying any of those are true, or that you should believe them, you shouldn't, but it just barely opens up the idea of how ignorant our thought process is. For us, if it doesn't walk and talk or send radio signals, then it isn't an alien. Maybe finding extraterrestrial life is easy, and we've already come across it a million times over just in this century, but we wouldn't know, because we aren't looking for life. We're looking for humans from space. That, to my understanding, what we define as life is based on life on this planet, needs water, oxygen, closeness to a star. All those are criteria for human, animal and plant life. But what if there are life forms that don't need those specific criteria? Could we even recognize it as an alien life form? By all means correct me if I'm wrong, but that's something that settles me. We taste like pork. Not horrifying, but every picture of an alien, real or fake, they are naked. Humans have had clothes for thousands of years, so why don't they? I invite you to contemplate how insignificant you are to me. Seriously, what exactly does Earth have that any alien might want? Water? There are trillions upon trillions of cubic miles of it floating around in space. You're likely to find water around nearly every star in the galaxy. It would be far easier to get it elsewhere than it is to haul ours out of the gravity well. Minerals, element, chemical compounds, again, trillions of tons of much more easily accessed elsewhere, or easily mass-produced using the near-infinite raw materials and energy found all around the galaxy. How about human labor? Delicate, easily killed, has to be fed, watered, needs to rest at least a third of its life, intractable, stupid, devious, rebellious, long, slow process to cultivate and educate. Certainly any race that can span the distance between stars can find better alternatives. Our technology, don't make me laugh. The only thing this planet has that is unique to it is the fauna and flora itself. Our only value is as a nature preserve, which means we are wrecking the only value our planet has to the universe, if anything at all. The only reason why aliens would come here would be to stop the destruction, probably by wiping out 99% of the species doing the most damage. I mean, what if they are just like us, but with super technology and weapons? The way that we tend to treat other forms of life that aren't quite like us, and also how we treat forms of life that are exactly like us, but which we manage to convince ourselves are somehow different and a bit less human than we are. They would know what I've searched in incognito mode. That they've been and are the sole reason humans exist here at all. I pointy we are them. That they already found us, but concluded that there is no intelligent life on Earth. That they won't be bangable. 99% of aliens in media are just pretty, slightly older, humans, with a few exceptions. The others are horror movie monsters, so they are less about sentient life, and more about ending yours. What if they decide to colonize, but they don't like oxygen very much, so that won't be as prominent anymore? Honestly, if they have the tech, we are fricked. Here's hoping they are nice and bangable. That they are going to treat us just like we treat animals. The idea it just might not be possible to ever interact with them, even if we can detect them. What if there is no magical technology that sidesteps the speed of light? What if the hard fact is that it will take over 500 years of travel to pass a single message along? They could be very friendly and may take us aboard their ship and even feed us, only to realize we are their main course. If there are aliens, which there almost definitely are, we have no idea what they would look like or how they would act. We always portray aliens as little humanoid things with big ass heads, but how do we know they wouldn't look more like a xenomorph from the Alien movies or some sort of weird creepy looking insectoid thing? There could be all sorts of crap out there that humans can't even begin to comprehend or prepare for. The dark forest theory. It is one of the possible answers to the Fermi paradox. It states that the reason the universe isn't filled out extraterrestrial signals, like we would expect, is that the universe is like a dark forest. You are not supposed to make noise, lest you catch the attention of a nocturnal predator. Other alien civilizations know this, and do not allow communication signals to escape their planet. But Earth was not fortunate enough to learn this, before gaining sufficient technology, to create high-powered radio transmissions. The first high-powered radio transmissions were made in the 20th century, which means they still have yet to travel much significant distance from Earth. But when someone hears them, we may discover precisely why the universe isn't filled with noise. We all know the Fermi paradox. Why? If interstellar life is at all possible, why we haven't found them yet? If we assume that there is life on other planets, we have one very simple and very terrifying answer to the question. The reason we don't see other alien species is because every time one reaches a certain point, it is unfailingly eliminated. There is no evidence of other interstellar life, because there is a force that wipes them all out. One particular alien species of unmatchable power and unflinching purpose, which has the technology required to prevent the rise of any other race to a point where it might pose any kind of threat. For all we know, they could be infinitely physically stronger than us. Someone else has probably already said this, but the theory that aliens have observed the slow growth and evolution of humanity for a long time, caveman era, that they have come to the conclusion that we are not even remotely a threat to them, nor would we be much use as an ally, so they've decided to ignore us and not bother wasting their time with humans that, to them, are much too primitive. No one's going to see this after 2800 comments, but here goes. Just to add on to the concept that aliens would be, at least, millennia ahead of us, and the kind technology we'd accept them to have. Wormholes and the Alcubierre drive are the best ideas humanity have for realistic FTL. Not every species is going to need FTL, but humans would rather not spend decades getting from star to star. Exactly what form an FTL drive might take is beyond me, but both work by exploiting loopholes in space itself to avoid breaking the speed of light and causality. A wormhole would be a hopefully permanent folding of space, so that they're connected by a throat of energy connecting two mouths large enough that a ship could pass through without touching the sides. The Alcubierre drive is basically a Star Trek warp. Sorta, space contracts in front and expands behind, thereby moving a bubble of motionless space at FTL speeds. They both have their positives and negatives. Both of these things require control of a hypothetical substance called exotic matter, which has negative mass/negative energy. That means it would be repelled by gravity. It would also be nice if it was stable and non-reactive with most regular matter. But who knows? For the purposes of FTL, we'd need to be able to make a lot of it, many tons at least. A small planetoid's anti-mass at most. We'd also need to have fine control over exotic matter and its properties. It would need to be built into some sort of a shape or matrix that would let a controller focus or manipulate space itself. Whatever was doing the controlling would also need to be practically infallible, because mistakes could wipe out human life in a star system. So what do we need to do to get there? Humans have only just started being able to produce antimatter, possibly the most destructive substance we know about. So, first we need to work out an experiment to test if exotic matter is even possible. Then experimenting to find a stable variety that will work for our purposes. This requires even larger, more energetic particle accelerator labs. I've read ideas in science fiction for exploiting the magnetic fields of Jupiter or the Sun to conduct experiments. If it requires antimatter, we'd absolutely want to do those experiments far away from Earth's surface. Second, we'd need to find out a way of reliably synthesizing more of it. Imagine industrial-sized particle accelerators or networks of automated space stations built in orbit of Jupiter, manipulating intense magnetic fields. Third, we'd need to have as much fine control over exotic matter and gravity as we currently do for magnetism, fission, and fusion power, and then some. Essentially, masters of matter on both a macro and macroscopic scale, or nearly so. We'd need the technology to be able to turn on/off gravity/anti-gravity, focus it, adjust the intensity, the shape and gradient of the field. Space industry, construction, and habitation would have to be an everyday reality for tens of millions of people and robots to support the large-scale production of exotic matter, spacecraft fabrication, space mining, and other related industries. It will take generations of people living and dying in space or other bodies in the solar system. Longer, considering how well we get along with one another. So if they showed up here to say hello, their ships would probably appear to defy physics as we commonly understand it. Nearly shape would be possible. Barely aerodynamic but able to turn on a dime without loss of momentum, movement and hovering with no exhaust. If not that, then using materials with unbreakable tensile strengths. Perfect radiation protection against anything we'd have anyway. Gravity wave weapons that could rip apart molecules with no way to block it. Near perfection medical technology or biotechnology. The list goes on. So, the real question is why don't we find any evidence of either sort of FTL method being used? Not even experimentally. Astronomers have seen some very energetic events out there, but nothing that wasn't explainable naturalistically. Then again, perhaps we aren't looking in the right place at the right time. If they used wormholes, they'd need to use conventional drives through normal space to send the other end of the wormhole there. It would take a long time, sure, but it's easier to stay at home making more stargates than having to be the one traveling the whole way there. If they use the Alcubierre drive, surely there would be spikes of gamma radiation without a conventional source. From what I've read, the radiation is released as a result of shutting down the drive. Ideally, the blast of deadly radiation would be pointed out into empty space, where it can spread out naturally. Even if the ALC drive wasn't clean, humans might have trouble picking it out from the light of the star. So my thinking is that we might pick up a signal from us of experimenting with the ALC drive before they find a way to prevent a radiation spike. Or they could simply arrive before we saw them leave because they literally beat the light of the event. As for communication, that's a whole other kettle of fish. They could be more attractive than humans. You could get aroused by aliens. Looks like someone doesn't feel like sleeping tonight. A jungle is normally very loud. There are few things that can make a jungle go silent. Space seems to be silent in terms of radio broadcast. Except for us. The one thing sending out a frig load of noise that can be heard at farther and farther distances every day. If they come to us then they are automatically thousands or thousands of years more advanced than us.